Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.
Home to an array of aquatic species, this swaying seaweed holds secrets, not always obvious to the naked eye.
These things are literally the keys that open the secret door to the lives of these animals. Because you can go into a place and it doesn't seem like there's much there, and you can literally read it like a book and get this incredible information out of the wild.
Without proper protection or an appreciation of its hidden treasure, this abundance is in danger of disappearing. These are the scientists and storytellers trying to save the African Kelp Forest. This is Inside Africa. Veteran filmmaker Craig Foster has been diving in this unique kelp forest on the southernmost tip of Africa for 7 years.
It's like a second home to me. I feel very relaxed there. It's a three-dimensional liquid forest. And you can imagine if you were on land, you're floating up in the high canopy, and then you can just jump off the top and fly down to the forest floor.
Diving here is more than a pastime. It has set the rhythm of his life.
I took the decision to swim every single day. If for some reason I miss a day, I do 2 dives on the next day. So I do at least 400 dives a year. It's a commitment to know this place and to know these animals intimately.
Craig was often the only person in the water. But the more he observed, the more he wanted to share his story. It's a story he has captured in extraordinary images, some taken with a microscopic lens and small camera that can fit in the nooks and crannies under the rocks. With others, he's founded an organization called the Sea Change Trust, campaigning to conserve the kelp forest at his doorstep to make it an international landmark for biodiversity.
So I think the main thing we're going to look at today is this mystery around why this cuttlefish is living in the den with these seemingly very dangerous cat sharks.
What actually I learned when I started working with Craig Foster is to be intimate, is to get into the water and feel the kelp and see the entire ecosystem. I see how magnificent they look. So yeah, with the journey we've been going through with Craig Foster, which also includes diving without a wetsuit, it's been a lot of growth, I would say, on my part.
Loiso Dunga could barely swim when he met Craig last year. Since then, he has been snorkeling with him most weekends.
For me, the first thing was ignoring that fear or overcoming it, and actually observing kelp forests kinda drove me, and it made me look past the fear. Yes, I'm scared today, but I'm sure I'm gonna discover endless things in the kelp forest. So it has always been like that kind of compromise. The second thing is the water is excruciatingly cold.
Today, the temperature is a refreshing 14 degrees Celsius. It can drop down to 9 degrees.
What took me about a year to adapt my body to the cold water. And for the first year, you shiver every day. And it's quite tough. Mentally, it's difficult, especially in the middle of winter and it's raining and you're trying to get in that water. Psychologically, it's difficult.
It was a complete shock to the system. I wanted to utter profanities, but I couldn't because I had the snorkel in my mouth. It was amazing. So Craig Foster just gave us a brief. Be cold, just let it happen. Don't fight it. And that helped.
Sizo Sizagele works in the same marine biology program as Loyiso and another young scientist, Luther Adams. The seabed is their professional focus. But until they met Craig, they had little experience of immersing their bodies in the Atlantic Ocean without a wetsuit.
I trusted this band to take me out diving, and I was just blown away. It just feels like you're flying in the air, but it's in water.
I found the Sea Change program and the people doing that work very interesting. I come from a very academic, quite rigid environment, and theirs is a little bit more fluid in that it takes in bits and pieces from everywhere, and it's able to create the story, and stories are key for people to understand what you're talking about, and I thought that is so powerful.
Thane Lobster was recruited early by Craig to the Sea Change team. She manages their social media. As an underwater filmmaker, she's well adapted to the icy Atlantic with fins for feet. She's there to help Loyiso, Sizo, and Luther.
They have come from backgrounds where swimming hasn't been something that they've been doing a lot, and essentially I'm there to make sure that they stay safe in the water, that they don't panic, and at the same time also offer guidance in terms of sort of animals and plants in the sea.
Early in his filmmaking career, Craig closely observed how South Africa's indigenous people, the Khoisan, track animals. Over time, he has learned to apply these same skills to the seabed.
Suddenly I saw these little slime trails left by the mollusks. The sand catches on the slime. At first it was very, very vague, but it becomes very clear. And then I suddenly realized over the next 3 years, there were thousands of tracks underwater that animals were leaving. Tiny little bite marks on the kelp, little gnaw marks, tiny different colors in the sand, different patterns in the sand, very subtle egg casings.
These tiny trails lead him on in an extraordinary quest to observe and document animal and plant behavior to unlock the stories of the sea.
When you learn how to trek, for me, basically, is to be in an environment and step out of your humanness. If you are trekking, for an example, an octopus, you try to perceive your environment through its eyes. You obviously need to understand how it lives. So when you are trekking, you kind of take yourself out of the humanness, who we are right now, and submerge yourself into nature. You become one with nature.
And the experience has changed the way these young scientists engage with work, particularly as their day job is mapping the ocean floor.
It does something very different for a scientist. Also, how I communicate about the ocean now is completely different. It forces you to think of how things became and how they're going to be, because you're walking in that area or you are swimming in it.
Diving deeper in search of diversity. Ahead.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch. For easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm going to a place I've never been before. Hello, Blue. Hello, Future. ANA.
There are all kinds of smiles, The I am blessed smile. The caught you smile. The not a care in the world smile. And the wish I were a child smile. Kirloska, behind a million smiles, silently and reliably.
No holds barred.
Out front tonight, hypocrite in chief.
No nonsense.
How stupid do you think we are?
Because getting to the truth matters. Aaron Burnett Out Front, Sunday.
This kelp forest sways along the shores of South Africa's Cape Peninsula. Underneath these waters lies a secret African forest.
So what's your idea to compare what you've mapped from satellite to what we're seeing out there?
Nearby marine biologist student Loyiso Donga and his supervisor are preparing to head offshore to measure kelp in the bay at Komiki.
The idea is to go at the outer edge of the kelp forest, and it gives us an idea of how deep it is and to correlate it with the actual map that we have.
This afternoon, Luis and I are going to be ground truthing the edge of the kelp forest. So he's been mapping from satellite imagery, but now we're going to be looking to see how accurately our mapping from space can track where that kelp forest goes deeper under the water.
There is a satellite platform called a Sentinel-2, which has an incredible resolution, which means it can come close. It can come close to 10 meters resolution. That's the resolution I am using. It's quite amazing.
3407806.
3407.
Kerry Sink is using this information to map the topography of South Africa's seabed. Her concern goes beyond the kelp forest and stretches around the whole coastline of South Africa. Her research assistants are collecting data to locate the most environmentally sensitive and valuable places.
Until very recently, South Africa's had only 0.4% of its ocean space protected. And all this incredible diversity of offshore ecosystems haven't been protected by our protected area network. So what I've been doing is, over the last 12, 13 years, is science, and then taking that science into the policy arena. I've had opportunities to take our research work and the incredible visuals that we get from ROVs, for example, into cabinet and show people what's down there, why it matters.
One of the key weapons in marine conservation is a remote operating vehicle, or ROV. That's a camera that scans the seabed like a drone. Her ROV operator is Luther Adams, who has a knack for mapping.
He has a strong interest in nature and growing things, and he took like a fish to water to the marine space. What he's been working on is describing what I call animal forests. So he's working in the East London area with our remotely operated vehicle footage and describing these incredible ecosystems of lace corals and sea fans. So it's habitat-forming animals or animal forests.
When I was really young, I always had this ability to see patterns in nature. I always had this ability to find animals. I would have the ability to go up to a tree and just look around there and find chameleons would just pop up, and I would just take them out to the tree and they would always just laugh at me and call me Dr. Doolittle.
Luther can no longer find chameleons or butterflies in the suburb where he lives on the edge of Cape Town. People have moved in.
Between about 2000 and 2005, the area around here developed quite rapidly. So every pocket of land was either an informal settlement established there, or some rental properties went up in the area. And that has seen the decline in specifically a butterfly species, which used to use a plot across our house as habitat to feed and grow and lay the eggs.
Where Luther used to play as a child, rural and urban lifestyles now collide. With so many competing for the basics of life, the environment is often the casualty. on the seas as on land, there are scientists trying to solve this problem in a practical way.
My research has been about designing marine protected areas, particularly looking at the benefits that people can get out of marine protected areas. But those benefits shouldn't be at the detriment of the environment. So basically, how can we coexist?
Cizo works closely with Carrie, her supervisor at the South African National Biodiversity Institute.
You have your cultural, archaeological, and natural heritage sites.
Okay, so that's the category that I'm quite interested in because that's where our link with sea change comes from.
Their offices are located at Kirstenbosch, South Africa's most prestigious botanical gardens. This is where Carrie can point to South Africa's floral kingdom as part of her argument for diversity.
In October, we were able to get a cabinet decision for permission to proclaim 20 new marine protected areas for South Africa that captures this incredible diversity of offshore ecosystems. So it means that we will safeguard the really special places in the ocean, those significant features that people haven't been aware of, the special places where whales aggregate to feed, where there's incredible life on the seabed, where there's things found nowhere else on Earth. Those will be safe. That takes us to 5% of the ocean space around South Africa.
Luther, Loiso, and Cizo are part of the team gathering the research Carrie needs to lobby decision makers. She relies on them heavily, but mentors at the same time.
What's encouraging for me is that there is a team of people who are incredibly supportive of this kind of work. And you can't do something of this size on your own. It's impossible. I want to continue working in this space. I feel it's very important.
Carrie wants to preserve the special spaces under the sea for the next generations. However, they are coming up against local fishing companies, mining interests, and pollution. Then there are the poachers who ravage the coastline for rock lobster and abalone.
There must be 40 animals here, these tiny little ones. And it always makes me so sad to see this. Because not only are you killing these beautiful animals, I mean, this animal's, 8, 9 years old, but there's incredible communities, as you guys know, living on the backs. There's hundreds of animals living on the back of each abalone, and those are killed as well.
Safeguarding the future of the seas by tracking the past.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch. For easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
There are all kinds of smiles. The everything will be fine smile. The my daddy is the best smile. The not a care in the world smile. And the wish I were a child smile. Kirloska, behind a million smiles, silently and reliably.
We follow the news as it happens and where it happens. And then we also take a step back to walk the viewer through the day's news. That's the mission of Halagarani tonight.
Caring for the coastline requires a deep appreciation for the treasures that lie beneath. Members of the nonprofit organization Sea Change Trust have invited a group of young South Africans to explore the ocean's edge here on South Africa's Cape Peninsula.
Oh, of course I found something amazing here.
They are honing their marine tracking skills. Craig Foster is educating these young scientists by sharing the stories of the marine life that live here.
A dark shy shark. Very cool,
I've never seen it totally eaten before.
Yeah, amazing. So, yeah, good tracking, exactly. Most probably killed by an otter.
But today, they also find evidence of abalone poachers.
It's completely out of hand, unfortunately. It's out of control. I think 100 million animals have been taken out the water since the year 2000.
The evidence of poaching that we saw today, it made me feel very sad. And it kind of like reminded me of the real threat that is posed on the environment.
Even among this pile of shells, there's an opportunity to admire nature's beauty.
Look at that. What do you think that is? So this is the radula, or the toothed tongue of the abalone. Yeah. You can see, if you look carefully, amazing little teeth. If you do that, along there like that, you can feel the little teeth. You go that way, it's smooth. Just feel the little teeth as you move your hand. And that's how the animal feeds. So this animal's scraping the kelp, like all mollusks.
The group pick up about 50 kilograms of garbage in just one day. Plastic is a pollutant that can kill sea creatures.
What people don't realize is that there are not that many fish in the sea. We need to conserve our habitats and not so much our fish species, because many of our fish species depend on our habitats to thrive, to procreate.
Craig is also tracking back in time. He combines his interest in marine life with the ancient story of this coastline.
That's amazing. Wow. Sure. Can you see how that snake edge there, that's been worked? Extraordinary. We need to put this back exactly where you found it. We can't disturb anything in here. So these places are very valuable for future archaeology. If you had to travel to any place in the world to get connected to your origins, you would be hard-pressed to find a better place than the coast here of southern Africa.
They also find a curious hand-shaped stone.
This looks like a cobble that's been worn in the sea, and in this little gap here, a piece of ochre looks like it's been forced in. So it's almost like used as a crayon. It's a very strange thing. I've never seen anything like it.
Craig is working closely with archaeologists who have been excavating on the southern African coastline, adding a new chapter to the story of early humans. With his skill in visual storytelling, he helps to communicate the science and is co-author of this exhibition.
It's extremely complicated, so I'm trying to explain it in simple terms. But essentially, they have found the oldest art and the oldest science on Earth. Tremendously sophisticated people living here at an ancient time period, 100,000 years. So it's incredibly exciting.
Some of these things, they go beyond words. It's very difficult for me to explain them, to articulate really how it makes you feel. But just to appreciate being in a space where so much history is within. And then there's just a lot of clues that are giving you a hint of what our ancestors possibly were doing in such a space. It's out of this world, I don't want to lie.
Being here helps take this small group back to a time when the sea was pristine and people lived off its bounty.
Being in nature and being able to engage with the environment on this deeper level, the tracking, figuring out what's been happening along the coastline, it's kind of one of the most freeing, liberating experiences. To me, it's a way for me to realize my connection and my unity with the natural world, that I'm not separate to nature, I am fully part of it.
This kelp forest is one of the many gems that thrive along South Africa's diverse coast. Scientists and storytellers believe that by collaborating, they can increase its chances of surviving.
I think that the appreciation of this asset that we have on our doorstep, it's not what it should be. It's underappreciated. So I think that's where our work comes together, is we know the value of a kelp forest in terms of productivity and many of the more scientific aspects. There are many animals that are only found here on the southern tip of Africa in these kelp forests. But there's also this human heritage story, which is globally unique. So to bring those together, I think it makes both stories more powerful.
Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.